I look at him more as like a Tank Dell replacement, and I think they're the same caliber-ish player when they're performing. Matter of fact, Tank Dell was disappointing last year before he got hurt. We don't really want to talk about that. But of the free agent moves, I think this was the best possible move when you factor in price and how much it would cost. And you also factor in the fact that he can do some work in the slot, which I think is something that they need. I think he's a 2 or 3. I think that's what Tank Dell is too, or was. He's definitely not that anymore. We don't know that we're going to see Tank Dell play again. But this was the best possible move for the Texans to make at wide receiver, given cost. And now you kind of make it to where you don't really have to dive too deep into this free agent wide receiver group, and the urgency of drafting a wide receiver in the first round it's not as big of a deal, but I don't think you eliminate the possibility. I like Christian Kirk, but you don't eliminate the possibility of drafting a wide receiver because of Christian Kirk. That makes no sense. And I've seen this all over the place. Some people try to localize it, and they just don't localize it very well. I think maybe this makes you more open to taking another position, perhaps. But if a guy's like at the top of your board and you think he's awesome, even if you think he's awesome and he's mainly a slot guy, then Christian Kirk should not stop you from doing that. If you have multiple slot guys, you can figure it out. Guys can line up outside. And I have the PTSD of this whole he lined up here, he lined up in the slot in college, blah, blah, blah. It's the Jefferson sickness. I'll never get over it. I'll never do it. A lot of times guys aren't lining up outside in college because they don't need to. Or it's what they're supposed to do. Like I don't subscribe to that whole thing. But Christian Kirk would not stop you from making a big move at wide receiver, especially if that would come at a rookie deal. And this is how I would say the slot thing. And just to make it clear, Chase, I'm not Chase is one of the regs and one of the dudes that brings the heat in the chat, brings the facts and everything. I know he only played slot. All I'm saying is that doesn't mean that he can only play slot in the league. So I'll make myself more clear in that. I think like a lot like other guys like that play like JSN. I think JSN can play anywhere. I think his best work is in the slot. But he can play anywhere. All I'm saying is just because you line up so much in the slot doesn't mean you can't do it. It means you did do it. I think there's a big difference between that. I think someone corrected me the other day when talking about Genty not being able to pick or not being able to catch. And they said, well, he wasn't asked to. And that's fair. That's fair. But here's why I don't think Christian Kirk eliminates the need or what should be the willingness to draft another wide receiver or acquire another wide receiver. Because if you agree, and let me know if you agree in the chat, is it fair to say that he's at least comparable to Tank Dell? He's at least comparable to Tank Dell when healthy. I think they're similar players that can produce at the same level. I know that this is H-Town and there's a lot of Tank Dell love, but 2, 3, really at their best, really, really good twos. We didn't see that from Tank Dell last year, except in the Kansas City game. But there was a couple other performances too. But if we agree, let's take a little survey here, little Scott Hall type survey.
Hey yo.
Do you think that Christian Kirk and Tank Dell are kind of in the same range of being like a 2 or 3 wide receiver? I would say that a lot of people agree on that. But look at what happened last year when the Texans had a wide receiver core of Tank Dell, Nico Collins, They didn't know that John Mechie was going to flop again. They had Hutchinson. They had Noah Brown, and they had Robert Woods. Noah Brown's gone. He's not coming off the year that he had with the Texans previously. Robert Woods is a year older. Same old, same old. Mechie, I think we're kind of moving past that. And now you have Nico Collins and you have Christian Kirk. When they had Nico Collins and Tank Dell, they still made a move. They still made the Stephon Diggs move. I'm not saying they're going to do that, but they thought when they had that wide receiver core that it was enough of a need to where they needed to make a move. They needed to make a trade. And they did. Before this trade, I continuously said, and I didn't get too much pushback on it, this is the worst wide receiver room in the league. Nico Collins is the only guy you feel good about. You add Christian Kirk to that. Now, instead of having one guy that you feel like can produce in the NFL at the wide receiver position, you have two. And I know that we like to talk about, well, this guy gets hurt and this guy has durability issues and this guy's always injured and all that. And Cooper Kupp, my God, he's always hurt. Christian Kirk, he's been hurt. Nico Collins gets hurt, folks. Depth at the wide receiver position is important here no matter what, just because of how limited you are there. But Nico Collins gets hurt. So if you're at 25 and there's a wide receiver there, if he's one of your top guys, take him. You also need cheap wide receivers. You got $16 million in dead cap of Stephon Diggs. You also don't have other areas that really overcome this weakness at wide receiver. And we're just talking about last year. It can obviously get better with Nick Caley. You don't feel awesome about your tight ends catching the ball. We don't know how they're going to allow the running backs to catch the ball out of the backfield. So they still need wide receivers. So this doesn't like eliminate the need for a wide receiver. And again, all you got to do is go back to this point last year when they had Nico Collins and Tank Dell. You probably felt better about that than the Nico Collins, Christian Kirk duo. Maybe you did. Maybe you feel the same. I don't think you feel like significantly better either way. But you felt good about it. And they still made the move for Stephon Diggs. So, no, this does not eliminate the possibility of going out there and getting another wide receiver.